Today I want to talk about a commitment time for 2021 5-star JT Tuimoloau. And all that's coming up after, right now. Look, I want to talk about JT Tuimoloau and the time that he has decided to announce his commitment to wherever it is he's going to go to school. And now that you can turn the video off, it is 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on July 4th. Keep it locked. We'll have, a take analysis of his decision after he announces where he is going. But if you're still watching the video, it is because you want to know what I think about all of this. And I appreciate that. I think it's interesting that there's been a lid put on the crystal balls coming in for JT Tuimoloau for a very long time, right? Like if you go and check the crystal balls right after an announcement time has been made, someone somewhere usually knows something. I'm usually in that group as well. But July 4th is also very interesting for a number of reasons, not the least of which is you don't have that coming in for JT Tuimoloau, but the people that still pick Ohio State. I think it's interesting that Brendan Huffman, who has been the only guy that Tuimoloau has spoken with throughout his recruiting process on the reporting side, still has a one low pick in for Ohio State. And he is the lead, opinion on what JT Tuimoloau is doing because he has been talking to him pretty regularly. Ohio State fans got to feel real good about this for a number of reasons, not the least of which is the thought was if Ohio State could get his parents on campus and then basically not botch the visit, he's going to go to Ohio State. Now, him removing Alabama from consideration a couple weeks ago, feels like a couple years, was also huge for Ohio State because I felt like Alabama was a dark horse that you cannot count out as long as a kid keeps saying Alabama's coming out of his mouth. And he did it in such a dramatic fashion in that he's not even taking his official visit that he could to Tuscaloosa to see what they had. And this is after Alabama put together the best recruiting class of all time in 2021, which means he could have added to an already historic recruiting class for Nick Saban at, Tuscaloosa. But that's not on the table. Now we're looking at 3 Pac-12 schools and 1 Big Ten school. And my God, man, if you are the Pac-12 right now, you need to win this commitment. You got to see him go to Oregon, his in-state Washington Huskies, or the USC Trojans, because that's where you are as a conference right now. Your brand needs this. You need to prove to people you can get a 5-star of this caliber. And the problem the reason I put it this way is because this is the dude that is getting all the buzz. I would be remiss if I did not point out to you that me, the savvy college football person, knows that you're secure the number 1 rated recruit in the entire country for the 2021 class. And nobody's giving USC any credit for getting Corey Foreman not only in the coffers and getting a signing, but also getting him away from Clemson. By the way, that's a huge deal. For me, that's a bigger deal than wherever it is JT Tuimoloau goes. However, if he picks Ohio State over any of these Pac-12 schools that at least 2 of them, I think, are going to start out preseason top 25, and one of them, Oregon, has an opportunity to start out in the top 10. Say nothing of whatever USC could be or it will be, right? It speaks volumes to me that Ohio State could still go to the West Coast, because I understand recruiting national is a thing, but go to the West Coast, go to Washington, and pull out these kids. Like Emeka Egbuka comes out of Washington. G. Scott comes out of Washington. This would be a third dude in the last, 2 years that has been top rated, went to high school, played high school football in the state of Washington, and does not become a Washington Husky. Does not make you feel good if you are a Huskies fan. Now, USC, I think, has the least to lose on this because they did such a good job in 2021. They have an opportunity to have Corey Foreman and Drake Jackson on the defensive line. You could have JT Tuimoloau over there, and all of a sudden we're talking about USC being a power once again. But that's how narrow this edge is. If you go to USC, you got to be talking about USC as really capable of getting into the college football playoff this year, because I think they would have the horses and the personnel to go win a Pac-12 championship and run a table undefeated. Goes to Oregon, you're talking about the most dynamic defense west of the Mississippi. Full stop, right? I'm dead serious about that, because you're talking about Justin Flo, Noah Sewell, Kayvon Thibodeau, and then adding JT Tuimoloau to the mix when they have to travel to Columbus to play Ohio State, with what I think is going to be the best defense Ohio State faces all year, and they're going to get them right out of the box with a quarterback that has been untested, right? This is whoever gets to be the starter, right? And many of us think that's going to be C.J. Stroud, but we'll see. Either way, it's a dude that just got his driver's license that is now being asked to drive Team Mercedes in F1 because that's how they are built. You got to put the right guy in the driver's seat, and if you get JT Tuimoloau over to Oregon, you're talking about being able to disrupt that in a truly meaningful way and get what would be, I think, the marquee road victory of the season for anybody because Georgia-Clemson takes place on a neutral site, right? It's a very big deal. So they have much to gain here. I talked about Washington and what they really need because this puts them back on a trajectory toward being a college football playoff team. And I get that Washington is the last Pac-12 team to make the college football playoff, but that's 5 years ago now. That's 2016. We can't be talking about what Jake Browning is or isn't, right? We got to talk about what Jimmy Lake is or isn't, and we don't really know. And the other reason it's really difficult to pick Washington to be in on this is they lost their defensive line coach, right? And they lost a defensive coordinator in Pete Kwiatkowski to Texas. We're not sure who was the brains of the operation when it comes to Jimmy Lake and Pete Kwiatkowski. I think they're both going to prove that they're good football coaches this year. I really do. But when you are splitting the system the way that we thought that they were, especially when Chris Peterson was still head coach, now we're talking about it looking a lot different, right? And you don't know what that is if you are JT Tuimoloau. And he's taken multiple trips to Washington, multiple trips to Oregon. He's taken trips to USC. And I think that official visit to Ohio State was such a big deal because it's also, what is Larry Johnson Sr. going to tell you? He's going to tell you Chase Young, Nick Bosa, Joey Bosa. He's also going to tell you Jack Sawyer, right? JT Tuimoloau on the other side of Jack Sawyer. He's going to tell you about Zach Sachs Harrison, right? He's going to tell you about what Jonathan Cooper was for them last year. And you got stud after stud after stud that continues to come in that defensive line room. And the joke when I talk to NFL people about drafting defensive linemen is, who's the best guy at Ohio State, right? And more to the point, like, who's the second best guy at Ohio State? Because they get Haskell Garrett back, but Tommy Togiai was really amazing for them last year. Again, another dude on the defensive line. Any way you slice this is good for JT Tuimoloau. But the last thing that I wanted to acknowledge here is that you're going to see a flood of commitments on July 4th because we always do. But I have been told that there are up to 6 dudes that I know about that could be announcing their commitments tomorrow on July 4th, and JT Tuimoloau is just one of them. So we'll all be waiting to see what happens there. And of course, keep it locked on the number 1 ranked show here on the YouTubes, where I will have you as quickly as I humanly can. Deuces.